helpful to have this option. And it's nice that since we upgraded
When you went through Lompoc, were you out there? Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, okay.
it's for measured.
Yeah, no, definitely. Our reading our handouts on this side. No,
I
that's
thought
what
that
it's
was
in.
mine.
Or outside. No, it's okay.
Good evening. Welcome to everyone here, to our speakers, and also to those of you in the audience and to the audience at home. My name is Morel Brooks, and I am the Public Policy Chair of the Lompoc Vanderburg branch of American Association of University Women. We're very pleased to present this informational session. We're in the middle of we have 4 forums in 2 weeks, but this really, it's not a traditional forum, because what we've asked you to do is to come, give us some information, give the public information about your school bonds, and then after the presentations, the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions. Okay, now I do want you to know that AUW supports public education. I'm reading from our 2017-2019 public policy priorities, and it states AUW believes in high-quality public education, and we believe that this is the foundation of a democratic society. And for that reason, we decided to give you this opportunity to present the information on your bond measures. Okay. All right, now I'd like to explain the format of the evening, and I believe some of you have received this, so you're a little bit familiar with it. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to start with 20 minutes presentation. We will begin with the Allen Hancock College, who will be talking about Measure Y, and they have a PowerPoint to share with us. So you will have the first 20 minutes, and then we'll go immediately to Lompoc Unified School District, and you will also have 20 minutes. I believe you're all prepared, and we have 6 speakers, 2 from Hancock, 4 from LUSD, so you could speak accordingly, but the total then would be the 20 minutes. We will then break for 10 minutes, and during that time, members of the AUW will collect any questions that come from the audience. And we are asking that if you have a question for Allen Hancock, to please use the colored cards, and then for Lompoc Unified, if you would use the white cards. And depending on our time for the second half of the program, we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Okay, when we get to that part of the program, we would ask one representative from the particular district to just select one representative, and you would have 2 minutes to answer that question. All right, then at the end of the program, what we will do, each district will have time for a 5-minute closing statement, and you can divvy that up. If one person wants to give it, want to split it, it's up to you, but it is a 5-minute closing statement. Okay, if everybody's ready, then I guess we'll just get on with the program. I think we have restrooms are outside. I don't think there's any other housekeeping we need to do at the moment, so we will begin with the 20-minute presentations. I have asked the participants to introduce themselves as they are making the presentation. And we will begin with Allen Hancock, and I will give you the
So when
Thank you.
they ask us to stand up, and so we can, hopefully this gets onto the TV feed. I'm Kevin Walters. I'm the Superintendent President at Allen Hancock College. I'm here with John Hood, who is the Department Chair for our Fine Arts Department. And we also have with us Jeff Hall, who is the Lompoc Area Trustee for our college. And we want to talk to you a little bit about Measure Y. And I don't really think I need 20 minutes, so we'll keep the stuff moving. Measure Y builds on some of the good work that we've already been doing, and I think you hopefully are aware of the Hancock Promise, which this is our first year of the Hancock Promise, where students get to go to Hancock College first year for free. But it actually is starting in the 5th grade. Last year we had more than 2,000 5th and 6th graders on our campus taking short classes, one-day classes, experiences where they could actually be part of a college experience and learn what it means to go to college. So we're helping those students in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade start to get a handle on what it means to go to college, to help those parents understand they can afford to go to college. Once they get into high school, we're offering concurrent enrollment classes, so students are earning college credit while they are while they're going to high school, and then they get that first year free with us. Once they finish that first year, we're also helping them get scholarships to move forward into that second year and ultimately on to transfer, get a career. Our Promise students, we say it's the first year free, but there's an investment the students make. They have to go full-time, they have to take math, they have to take English, because we don't want them just to come to school, we want them to graduate. We want them to complete a certificate, we want them to complete a degree and transfer. And we're excited, this has had a huge impact. We are up, our high school enrollments year over year are up over 65%, and we have more than half of the kids from our district who graduated in May on our campus this fall. Not half the ones who went to college, half of the students who graduated from local high schools are now on our campus. So we're excited about that, and we think that's going to be a real game changer. So that leads us right into the bond, because our campus, both in Lompoc and in Santa Maria, have been transformed by previous bond measures. There's still work to be done. And John Hood and his team have been working for years on getting the ballot measure, getting the fine arts building done. The state has offered to give us, the state's paying for half of it. $24 million of the estimated $48 million cost is coming from the state. So we're hoping to be able to leverage these funds and move forward with building. What you see there is a great building. And when I click there, I'm going to actually have John talk a little bit about the kind of programs that go into the fine arts building, because yeah, it's painting, it's ceramics, it's all of that kind of stuff, but it's also, there's a lot of career education programs. So I'm going to turn it over to John as our expert on that.
Thank you, sir. Again, John Hood, I'm chair of the fine arts. I've been teaching at Hancock for 20 years. And we have, specifically for fine arts, we have 9 programs ranging from the performing arts to the visual arts. We've got drama, and we've got theater arts, and we've got graphics and multimedia, filmmaking. So we have a lot of different programs, and we're actually scattered across the campus in 5 different buildings. So when we say, oh, you send a student over to one program, it might mean you have to go across campus to another building. So that's been our life for many, many years, as Dr. Walters was mentioning that for me, I've been working on it for 20 years trying to get a new building. We justified it 25 years ago that we needed a new building. So you could say we've been chipping away at it. And now we have this wonderful opportunity to rectify some of the issues. Major issues is because we're so spread out. It'd be nice to have us all together, especially since over half of the students at Hancock, we have 5,000 students that come through the fine arts department every year. So we make a big impact, but it'd be nice to be together. It'd be nice to have heating and air that worked, and some hot water. So infrastructure is suffering, and we make do. Maintenance has been wonderful, but we make do with something that has been designed 50 years ago, and we just keep growing and growing as a department. So we're thrilled to see something like this wonderful image from the architects that showcases what the fine arts building could look like, and we're actively working on it right now.
So, as part of this, when we talk about some of the programs that are there, I just actually came from a meeting with some folks who are trying to do a space camp kind of area down near our campus. And they were saying, what we're going to need people who can do graphic design. We're going to need people who can do computer animation. We're going to need people who can set up technical sites for experiential-based learning for students. Those are all the things we do. These are career-based education. And when we talk about what the campus looked like, how many people here went to Hancock? How many people had kids go to Hancock? You? All right. You can see this is about 1968. And the building that you see right above where it says yes on Y, that kind of square building with a courtyard, okay, that was there in 1968. It was there in 1963. And it's still our primary arts facility. And then on the far backside of campus is the old industrial technology building where we have some of our other programs that are there. So the Fine Arts Complex there, it will create the architects keep changing the number, but we think it's going to be about a 400-seat recital hall. That's paid for by the Patty Boyd gift. We received a $10 million donation from Patty Boyd to pay for that recital hall so that our performance spaces are there. It seems kind of strange that the college that is the home of PCPA doesn't have a performance space for our regular students, but we don't, because PCPA is full up and tickets for Peter Pan are going fast, so get on that. But what you're going to see in those buildings is the same thing in our physical education building, where it was built in the early 1960s, and it's just worn out. It's 50 years is a long time for a building to go. In our physical education athletics building, yep, we're taking care of our student athletes in there. Our student athletes graduate at a higher rate than our student body at large. They have a higher GPA than our student body at large. We have a lot of local kids that go through our program and are good students because of that. But again, when the building, you can see that top right picture is the showers, okay? 1960s era showers. We kind of make a joke that you could film a prison movie in there because it's not a great spot. We did a tour the other day, and I had Tom Martinez, who's an architect in Santa Maria, kicked field goals for us in the 1970s. And he walked in and like, this looks exactly like it did when I was here in the 70s. So we've done a pretty good job of maintaining it, but it's really time to replace it. We also have an opportunity to expand our STEM program. Right now our STEM programs are kind of scattered. We have a space identified where we can move all of our STEM into one space, and we provide a lot of extra tutoring. We got a grant 5 years ago to help expand our STEM programs, and we've now incorporated that into our regular program so that we have faculty and staff that are working full-time to help with our STEM programs. We also have an opportunity here in Lompoc. You're all aware of the new Fire Public Safety Training Center, Fire, Police, EMS. We built that grid on the right with some grant money, and the idea is we have that track, right? It's a 1.3 mile track. It's rated for 110 mile an hour pursuit. And then the students and local law enforcement and emergency agencies can come and use the facility as well. They then leave that track at high speed and enter into what looks like a city street. We would like to upgrade that, put in some stoplights, signal lights, so that they would have a more real experience as they move into that facility. So we're using that both for our students and for the local public safety folks. And then out in Solvang, our Theater Fest program out there, we don't actually own that building, so we can't do upgrades to the building. However, we do own the equipment, the soundboards, the lights, the things that go with that. And those are our technical theater students. So we have students who come in, do a 2-year program. They learn how to design sound and lights for productions. They learn how to do set building. They learn how to engineer the whole production. Last year, and I've forgotten, we had 24 or 26 students in that program last year. Every single one of them that graduated got a job in the industry. So they're getting a good paying job that will allow them to raise a family. There's the funding formula from the state. As you can see, we'll get $24 million from the state. Our district funds for the Fine Arts building will be $13.6 million, and we'll add the Patty Boyd gift for a total of $48 million. We do have some expectation that since this building is largely a steel frame, that probably that price is going to be a little higher. We're working with the state to make sure that they increase their contribution as well. I want to share with you our steering committee because it's across the board. We have lots of friends here in Lompoc, Steve Pepe, Ken Ostini, Amber Wilson at the Chamber, Mike Carroll, who's on our foundation board, Bob Klug, lots of folks who are helping us out with this. We're really excited, though, by the organizations that are helping us out. So we've got the 3 major chambers in the valley, are supporting us. The Lompoc Chamber, Santa Maria Valley Chamber, and the Solvang Chamber of Commerce are committing not just their support, but resources. We were also endorsed by the Santa Maria Times Lompoc Record and the Pacific Coast Business Times. And last week, Andy Caldwell got on board. So I don't know how many of you know Andy, but Andy's kind of a tax watchdog guy, and he's evaluated what we're doing, and we're really happy to have support from a broad spectrum. And what we know is that our program is not really designed to be, it's not a partisan issue. When you support the college, we're the only higher education institution in northern Santa Barbara County that's affordable. Right? There's a couple of those proprietary schools that are super expensive. We are the only affordable option, and we are really dedicated to making sure we have a school that's suitable for our students, for your kids, for your family, for you to come and take classes. And we've really worked on, this needs to be about building new and replacing outdated. We are not using any of this money for deferred maintenance. Okay? We're not fixing things we should have already fixed. We spend between $5 and $6 million every single year on our campus, on both of our campuses, and now we have one in San Ynez at the high school. $5 to $6 million a year to maintain the facilities. The building where John works, the air handler went out, the 1963 air handler, which, by the way, is completely inside the building. The entire air handling unit is in the space where the students are. That went out. It has to be replaced. There's no parts for it. There's no way to get parts for a 1963 air system. So we're going to go buy a special package unit that we can install in its place, make the air handling system work, and then when we're done with that building and knock it down, we'll take that unit and move it to another place on campus where we can continue to use it. One of the great hallmarks of Hancock College has been really strong financial management, and I'm proud to kind of continue that tradition. Our budget is balanced every year. Our audits the last 3 years have been zero findings, and our post-employment liabilities are fully funded. So when you hear about all the cities and counties and stuff that are really struggling with those retirement benefits, ours are fully funded. It's all taken care of at the college. Because we know it's important to have a long-term vision for what we're doing. And Measure Y does that. We think that our goal in making sure that we're replacing the most aging infrastructure on campus and doing the right upgrades is important. We do have an ask of you if you like us. I don't really understand how Facebook works. I created an account because my wife told me to, and I don't have any friends, and you can't find me. But she says if you go to the facebook.com Hancock Measure Y and you click the like, and then you click on the community, and then you can invite your friends to like the page. That was within a couple of weeks. We're up to 500 followers right now. My wife is managing all the social media, and by next week we'll have reached 20,000 unique people in the community through our outreach program that we're doing. So for those of you who have Facebook, you got your phones. I won't feel bad if you get your phone out and go ahead and do that. I was telling this to the Santa Maria Kiwanis Club the other day, and saying I didn't know how to use Facebook, and some guy who literally was 80 years old had his phone out, and he showed me, and he says, I've already done it. So that's what we're doing. We really are optimistic and want you to know that what we're doing for the community, this fits right into the role of the community. And we'll be happy to answer some questions after the Lompoc School District. John may have one more thing to add.
Yeah, I would like to add just that our students are very excited, current and alumni. We've had dozens and dozens of students hear about it and are liking the page, and they want to give back because they are in Chicago and they're in Indonesia in the industry. They're making films and in theater, and they want to give back, and because they know how long we've been fighting for this building. So it's encouraging.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess we can give a little round of applause now. That concludes the Alan Hancock presentation. Again, if it's fresh in your mind and you want to jot down your question, we'll collect them during the break. Okay, let me just check.
15.
Okay, then without further ado, we will come a little bit more locally, although Hancock is very local. We will now hear from our representatives from the Lompoc Unified School District, and you will have 20 minutes for your total presentation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, Morel, thank you. Thank you to AAUW for hosting this event, giving us another opportunity to just talk a little bit about Measure E 2018 and how that will impact the students of LUSD. So my name is Doug Sorum. I'm the Director of Facilities and Maintenance for Lompoc Unified School District. I have worked for LUSD for 23 years, born and raised right here in Lompoc. I went to school, graduated from Cabrillo High School. I'm here to tell you that Cabrillo High School looks a little bit different than the days when I went to school. And so what is Measure E? Measure E is a $79 million general obligation bond. It's on the November 6th ballot. Measure E has been designed so that it does not increase any property taxes. Like Allen Hancock, LUSD has been progress. Measure N was passed in 2002. And so as the payments of Measure N start to drop off in 2022, this is where Measure E would fill in the gap for 30 more years. And so Measure E is a facilities bond, just like Allen Hancock's. Also like Allen Hancock, most of our schools were built in the late 50s and the early 60s. Cabrillo High School came in 65, and our baby, the newest school in LUSD, which is Megalito Elementary, will be 50 years old in just about 3 more months. And so, not unlike your house, as they get older, you need to do upgrades, right? And so with Measure N in 2002, that was a $38 million general obligation bond also. The bulk of that work was in infrastructure, electrical and plumbing, and ADA compliance. And so back in the back of the room, there's a few handouts for you if you want to pick those up on your way out. One of them is a chart that shows where all of those dollars from Measure N were spent. Also, I believe there's a letter from the Oversight Committee from Measure N that says that the district acted accordingly. All the money was spent exactly the way we said we would. We did audits, although we didn't have to. Also in the back of the room, you'll see there's a project list. And so if you drive around the community and you look at all of our school sites, you'll see a nice big project board on the fence. And so we have posted those at every school site so that the community has a good idea of where these funds for Measure E would go. So if you compare the two, if you look at the Measure N project list back there, and you see all of the ADA work and all the infrastructure work, and then you start looking at the project list or the district-wide project list, you see that that looks a little bit different. I'm not going to tell you that we don't have more infrastructure work to do. We do. We have a little bit of that. There will always be more ADA work to be done. Every year, the compliance laws for ADA change. Most of that, fortunately, is just in signage and little repairs, but there will always be more ADA. But the bulk of the projects that you see for Measure E, these are the things that are up close and personal with our students. So as you walk into the classrooms, do we have a clicker? Oh, right here. Okay, you want to operate that? As you walk into our classrooms, you see a lot, some of the same pictures that you saw from Allen Hancock there. Some of the repairs include the roofs. We've done a lot of roofs over the years with our deferred funds as well, which we spend anywhere from $3 to $6 million a year at our 17 locations. However, there's many more roofs that need to be repaired. The water leaks into the classrooms. You see the acoustic tile, which has asbestos mastic behind it. Those are falling from the water that's pouring in. You see the plaster damage on the walls. The walls there has not been a painting project to paint all of the interior walls throughout LUSD since it was built. The flooring, most of the flooring is 9x9 ACT or asbestos containing tile. So a lot of that work would be encapsulating or removing and replacing the asbestos. The furniture within our classrooms, it worked great when I was going to school. It is not appropriate for the kids today. It's worn out, it's old, it is just not up-to-date furniture. The window systems that are in the classrooms. We've been taking tours of different facilities the last 2 weekends. This past weekend, we toured Hapgood and LVMS and gave people an opportunity to get an up-close and personal look. And so what you see, the window systems, all the frames are corroded, that are buckling. You can see gaps as much as we try to keep them filled in. Of course, they are coated with lead-based paint. And so window systems is on the project. As you walk outside of the classrooms, going down the sidewalks, you see the concrete trip hazards. Again, every year we do the worst of the worst with those deferred funds. Right now, the worst of the worst is anything that is 3 inches or more, which is just absurd for our students to be walking around being injured on that stuff. Also, on the project list, you see playing fields, playground equipment, asphalt. All of these are learning areas for our children. We know that the skills that they're learning out there on the fields and in the playgrounds, those are skills that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. So there is a little bit of everything. All of it is the stuff that is up close and personal for our students. So along with me tonight, I have Trevor McDonald, our superintendent. We have 2 board members, Gloria Grijalva and Dick Barrett. And then also out in the audience, we have Teresa Acosta and Bree Valla, who are also part of our campaign. So back in the back of the room, again, there's some handouts for you to pick up. And I'm going to pass it on to Trevor.
Okay, thank you. Trevor McDonald, Superintendent of Schools. You saw through some of those slides, we have some significant challenges, and those challenges have to do with our schools being 50 and 60 years old. It's just very similar to a house that there has to be some upgrades in time. And I'm not going to take too much of your time, but one of the things we want to talk about is not only our committee, we know you and we know folks that are involved in education and understand that we all believe our kids deserve better. We always do that. I mean, I think as parents, we want our kids to achieve and do better than we did, and we want the same for our 10,000 students in Lompoc Unified. And one of the things we talk about to just kind of informationally let folks know, every single K-12 school district in Santa Barbara County currently has a bond. Some have 2. So the gap of where kids and what they're experiencing in different areas continues to grow. And I'll give you an example. We looked at those playing fields. Well, we know in an elementary, if there's 700 kids, they're out there in the morning, playing, running on blacktop and in the grass, and we know there's a significant gopher issue not only at our schools, in the city and everywhere else. And then those 700 kids go back out for recess at some point around 9:45 to 10:30 every day. They go back out for lunch, and then they're there after school usually. So these are significant learning areas where potentially their counterparts in other areas in the county are going out to nice blacktop surfaced areas, nice flat grass. And not that isn't going to be a make or break, but you saw some of these pictures inside. We have other significant issues that it continues to put a strain on the system when the schools are that old, and when resources are being pushed in to continuously band-aid things that need to be fixed, just like at our house. And we continue to talk about this is good for kids, period. We know that the homeowners are going to be helping us out here and really contributing to the youth, but we also know that it happened for us when we were in schools, and it continues to happen, and it'll continue to happen long when we're out of here. And this isn't just an investment right now. This isn't an investment to help us. This is an investment to help the 10,000 kids right now, but also these kids that are going to be going for 20 and 30 years from now, that our schools will be up to speed, they'll be technologically savvy, they'll be safe. That's another thing, a safe school and a secure environment. And I'll just give you an example. Technology-wise, it changes so rapidly, and it's hard to keep up with it when you're going at a rapid rate. Well, we visited a classroom the other day that had there's just certain drops in these schools, and there just happened to be one drop over here. Well, on one end of the room is where the drop is, but on the other end of the room is where the teacher is and where the computer systems are going. So they've done the best they can, but they run a cord up, an extension cord comes down, goes over, drops to the teacher's desk. Now they're doing the very best they can with the environment that they're given. Now, in a technologically savvy room, we would have 5, 7, 10 drops so that teacher can move around, things can be more conducive to the modern day learner. So we believe this is very powerful for kids, not only now, in the future. I think we all owe it to our students to do the very best we can, and I know we are, and we're going to continue to push forward for them and for future generations in Lompoc Unified School District. So thank you for letting us come and talk, and I'll pass it on to Gloria Grajova.
I'm Gloria Grajova. I'm a school board member. I'm also a product of Lompoc Unified School District, came all the way through K-12. I worked at Lompoc Unified School District for 13 years, and during that time, I worked in the accounting office and paid the bills for the Measure N project. So I worked with the team of project managers and helped process those payments. So fiscally responsible, I saw it. I know that it's there, and I am the Oversight Committee and the audits that occurred for that. So I know there were questions about that. I can attest to the responsibility that was there. What I want to share with you is my current responsibility. I am a CBO in Guadalupe. They passed 2 bonds with over 70% approval rating. Our kids in Guadalupe are very high poverty, a big English learner group. But the first bond that was passed and sold, we had 3 projects. There was one-to-one technology, so all of our children in Guadalupe now have computers that they can use, even the little TKs, they have mini iPads. The second project was playfield. Our junior high school had a total revamping and 5-acre track and field created for them. It's a beautiful, safe, green place for them to play and run, and it's just wonderful to see. And our big project this summer, I was the construction project manager, and we built an 8-classroom building for our 5th grade students. What an amazing task to see these kids and have them come to school, first day of school, with a brand new building, brand new classroom, furniture, everything ready to go. Our kids deserve that, their kids deserve that, and I think the kids in Lompoc deserve that. Your grandchildren, my grandchildren, we need to have that here too. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Blevins, how much time I got? 7 minutes. Oh, wow, that's good. That's good. You see where I'm sitting, it was a setup. I'm the last one. I'm Dick Barrett. I know a lot of you out here and had some of you in class and had some of your kids in class. I'm one of the older guys in the room. 32 years ago, came to Lompoc, and just 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to run for school board and had an overwhelming support. And I ran on a campaign of we're doing these things for the kids. And I've been educated the last couple of years on the politics of it all. And there's always going to be some people that are going to pick at you to try to make a negative approach. And then what you have to do from that is try to answer those critics. And that's something that I've learned. I wanted to say we need to support Hancock's bond, absolutely. My daughter went to Hancock, took part in their athletics, and God bless Patty Boyd. Patty Boyd played at my wedding, and she was my dad, who was a minister in Santa Maria, was his organist for many years, so may she rest in peace. Patty's great. Okay, my thing is, this bond stuff, it's been said we've got the only one that doesn't have a bond that's been passed around here lately. A lot of reasons, I believe, on that. I was shocked, but I'm learning, and one of them is that we didn't get the turnout in the last voting election, whether it was a good decision to do or not. You can always say 20/20 hindsight, but we had less than 7 people vote. And when I ran in November of 16, we had 14,000, 13,000. I mean, Lompoc's got 40,000 people if the parents just vote, and so my thing is trying to get people out to vote. And looking at some of the, it's also hard when you're looking at Hancock and all the people that are supporting them, and we couldn't even get our own newspaper behind us as far as the editorial staff. and they kind of go by the whim of their guest columnist who likes to be negative on most things and is never always right, but everybody assumes he is because he's writing a column in the paper. His latest, first of all, talking about that we don't have things planned out to what we're going to do. We had this thing right here. I mean, if you wanted to look at it, or anybody wanted to look at it, I gave a copy to my friend over there, Willis Jacobson, who's done a tremendous job writing on our school board and letting people know our issues objectively. He's got 2 children in our school district. Well, that wasn't good enough when we pointed out, yeah, we've got all this stuff here. Apparently, generalities weren't good enough, obviously, and so everybody wants to know, well, no, this is too involved. This is way too involved. Well, so now what do you want us to do? Okay, that's all spelled out, and then so we've got another thing for people to look at. Well, so now it's got to be something else. It's got to be, well, you're putting money into the school district offices. Well, you know, that's part of the plan for every building and, 17 schools, but it's like the asphalt in the parking lot, things like that, and we're certainly not going to put that before the kids. That's the last thing that's going to happen. So I'm sorry, I'm an old coach. I get a little feisty once in a while, I get ready to game plan against somebody who is taking on our kids. And basically, then it becomes a personal thing. People, well, we don't like the superintendent because of this or that. We don't like that Barrett guy. We never liked him, and blah, 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 blah. He's on the school board. So let's vote it down. That'll get them out of there. That'll show them. Oh, yeah, it showed them all right. Screws our kids over. I'm sorry. But this thing is about trying to get things upgraded for our children in this school. So we've got some great teachers in our school system. We've got some great administrators. Nobody's perfect. There's always going to be problems and certain things we can whine on, and talk about. But, I understand the taxing. I mean, if it were up to me, it'd be a sales tax. So homeowners don't have to pay the whole thing, and I have to pay it. Even the superintendent who'd be, he lives in Santa Barbara, he doesn't pay it. He's going to put money up compared to what he would have to pay if he was here given the evaluation of his house. I mean, there's nobody trying to do crooked things here. I have to pay it, but at least I know where it's going. And it's not going to something that I don't support. And so that's the thing that's amazed me about Lompoc. Since I got here, I was shocked when I first got here. And I've since served as a teacher at Lompoc High School and privileged to serve with some people that are in this room. And I've coached, I've been an athletic director, I've come back, I've taught summer school at Cabrillo, I subbed elementary school at Clarence Ruth, and I'm never doing that again, man. It's crazy. You ever try to sub second grade? I lasted 2 days, and I told Sonia Cross, that's it, I'm done, I can't do this. I don't know how you guys do it. But we have some great teachers, and that's kind of been my background. And in going around and seeing all these places, and the one thing I would like to see happen is to see our schools have an opportunity. This guy Doug Sorum there, people are going, well, it's not really spelled out. So then we've got go around to every school. It's listed what we're going to do in what order possibly. That's not probably good enough for people either. Okay, so what's the argument? The other thing on that is that even when you look at that, Doug, what do you get? 400, 500 work orders a week? 2 weeks?
If you look at the online profile, it's generally speaking somewhere from 475 to 600.
Every week, this man sits there to play God to try to figure out what he's going to do first. And they only get about 80, 90, maybe 100 done if they're okay, if they get a chance to. Well, that's going to happen when the bond happens. Well, where do we start? Well, we should, what's your priorities? I'll tell you what priorities, pick a school and just jump in because they all need it, and that argument bothers me because Doug's a product of our school district. I mean, we've got 3 or 4 principals that went to our high schools here and work in the district office, plenty of people. They're invested in Lompoc. Lompoc's a different place. I think it is. I mean, you look at Relay for Life, we were raising more money than Santa Barbara and Santa Maria. How is that possible in a community our size? The YMCA is raising $100,000. How is that possible? The service clubs are how is that? Because it's a special place. It's a special place, and we understand that our children are important. And I think that we've got to kind of take it on the chin if we have to put a little bit more money in, or we're keeping the same money going on our tax rate anyway. And I understand, I get it. You heard it. In 2012, or in 2022, yeah, the tax rate would drop. You'd be paying less taxes. Okay, that's a fact, and I understand why some people feel that way. I'm just hoping that they're doing it for Lompoc, like I am, like I'm going to vote because of that. Okay, and I'm not a politician. Okay, a lot of you maybe think I am. You've seen me around here so darn much, but it's mainly volunteer groups and stuff. I'm done in my 4-year commitment. I'll be 73. My wife will shoot me if I try to run again. Okay. So that's it. It's just I'm a Lompoc guy like all of you here, and we'll take on the naysayers. But sometimes it just doesn't look like you have an opportunity. When you hear more, squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you see that a lot. You don't get to see how a lot of people feel that are more positive. I want to thank Mr. Lankford, one of the editors of the paper, when I sent an article in there to try to spell out, hey, this is why we should vote for the bond. I get, he was very good to me because we disagreed, but he put it in the editorial. He apologized to me for the language they used when saying we got trashed in our last 2 elections. And I said, what are you using that kind of language you're talking about our schools and kids for? And for the record, the last 2 elections, we have more than 50% of people have supported our schools. But in our government, we have to raise 55%. So we had like barely 51 last time. Time before that, stop. We had 59%. So if we can all vote.
Thank you, Coach Barrett. Okay, thank you very much to both groups for these presentations. Okay, before we take our break, I'll just give a couple of instructions. Again, if you have a question for Alan Hancock, use a color card. If the question is for Lompoc Unified, you could use the white card. Please keep your questions to the bond measures. We understand there are other issues about the schools, but we will be having another forum next week for school board candidates. So we will not entertain any other questions regarding curriculum. We want to stick to the bond measure for this evening. So try to word your questions accordingly. Again, we've allotted 2 minutes per answer. Depending on how many questions we get, we can go a little bit longer. We could be flexible there. Okay, so we'll take our break, 10 minutes, and thank you very much. Come back and take their seats. We'll get to the question and answers. Okay, we are ready to continue. You will have opportunities at the end of the program to chat some more.
I liked how they set the stage.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are now in the question-answer portion of our informational presentation. I think we will have adequate time for all the questions that were submitted. We have some good questions, and I know we'll get some very complete answers. We could probably do about 3 minutes per answer. Okay, I think what we'll do is alternate a question to Lompoc Unified, then a question to Alan Hancock, and get through these questions. Okay, let's begin. Okay, this is for Lompoc Unified, and you can decide among yourselves who would like to answer this. What percentage of the bond funds go directly to school repairs? What percentage of funds go to administrative services or other expenses?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Thank you, whoever asked that. 100% of the GO bond funds go towards repairs, upgrades, and modernization. $0 goes towards administrative salaries, teacher salaries, or anyone else's salaries. So that one's not going to take 3 minutes to answer.
Okay, next question then we'll put to Alan Hancock. How come a portion of this current bond is going to be used to help pay off the previous bond?
So it's actually not paying off. So on our current bond, we have $34 million of authorization that we haven't issued yet. So we're actually going to cancel that $34 million so that somewhere in the future, someone can't, the 15 years from now, some president says, oh, look at this, I found $34 million sitting around. So it's a similar idea to what they're doing in Lompoc, where we'll extend out and as debt gets paid off, our new bond issues will kind of offset that. But yeah, it doesn't actually pay off the old bonds. It does eliminate some authorization that we won't be able to use in the future. I would note that as part of that, over the last 5 years, we've refunded is the Wall Street term for refinancing our bonds, and we've actually reduced the cost of the bonds to the taxpayers by $12 million over the last 5 years. We've done 3 separate refinancing issues where we reduced the total cost for the taxpayers. None of that money comes back to the college. That's all just to the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to Lompoc Unified. Why aren't some of these repairs covered by the annual district budget?
So every year we use, LUSD pulls $3 to $5 million out of our reserves and puts that towards capital outlay projects. And so is that enough? Well, you heard what Allen Hancock is doing for their 2 facilities. That is not enough. However, unfortunately, the funds that we receive from the state are for the day-to-day education of our students and some day-to-day maintenance. So day-to-day maintenance means sweeping and vacuuming the floors, cleaning the restrooms, mowing and edging, those kinds of things. So to do the kinds of repairs that you see on our project list, which are very comprehensive and very expensive, what LUSD does over the last 6 or 7 years, we pulled anywhere from $3 to $5 million a year out of the reserve, put it into the deferred maintenance, which is now called capital outlay, to repair just the worst of the worst. And so what does that mean? That means where the water is pouring in on the kids in the classrooms, where the plaster is crumbly, the wall is just coming apart, when the asbestos tile has become friable, which is when it becomes very dangerous, when the concrete trip hazards are upwards of 3 or 4 inches and we're having kids fall on them repeatedly. These are the things that we have to do something, and so we are forced to pull some money out of that reserve and make those repairs. So now, if you could imagine, the question has come up a couple times, what will $79 million do as far as maintaining? If you could imagine a brand new home and how much maintenance you have to put into that in the beginning years, it's very little, right? And then as your home becomes 50 years old, you have to put a lot more maintenance. So Measure E passes on November 6th. We have $79 million we get to put towards the classrooms for our kids. We will go after state funding, which could be anywhere upwards of $40 million. Those are funds that every other district in the county is now capitalizing on to upgrade the classrooms for their kids. And so we will bring the classroom back down to a level where 3 or 5 million, that goes a lot further because the facilities are a lot newer.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is actually a question to both groups, so we'll start with Allen Hancock. Does Allen Hancock have plans to become fossil fuel-free, in line with the state mandates?
So we always follow the state mandates, and we actually have been doing a lot of infrastructure upgrades. So we've changed out the lights, the lights that are on all night. We've changed those out to LED, so they're much lower utilization. One of the things we can't do, which I think is unfortunate, I wish we could buy solar offsets so that we could use some of our funds to pay for solar somewhere else, and we would get credit for that. PG&E and the legislature don't allow for that. But we have done substantial lighting upgrades. That's on a college campus. Running the lights is the biggest power user on campus. So we're doing that. We fixed that. But our other big issue is water, and we've worked with the city of Santa Maria on the Santa Maria campus to convert to secondary water use for irrigation. And we have dropped our costs and the impact on the potable water substantially to being almost non-existent for well, none for landscaping. So we've reduced that by 60 or 70%. And then on the Lompoc campus, we have everything is kind of xeriscaped. So it's it's water-wise kind of plants that we use there. We just use the natural vegetation around the Lompoc campus to keep those resources at a minimum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, same question then to Lompoc Unified. Does LUSD have plans for becoming fossil fuel-free in line with the state mandates?
So like Allen Hancock, about 60% of our KWH usage for our classrooms comes from the lighting above, right? And so we also have embarked on LED projects at our school sites. This has absolutely nothing to do with the Measure E bond. These are funds received from the state through Prop 39. We have tackled 4 schools now. We have 3 more slotted to start on next Monday. After that project finishes up, we'll move up on the hill, hit Los Perros and Buena Vista and Maple High School. Then into spring of 19, we'll be out on base doing Crestview and Vandenberg Middle School, and then turn around just before summer of 19, and we'll come back and hit the 2 high schools and the El Camino campus right here in the center of town. So these are projects that they just keep on giving, right? The payback on these is somewhere around 8 years, which is pretty quick. The lighting that's in the classroom is much more, this is what the teachers want, right? We went through years ago and did a study. The lighting, the incandescent or the T8 fluorescent that we have in the rooms, it's not really appropriate for our kids today. And so the LED is something we're doing. We're also hopeful that some of the legislation regarding solar is going to change. It has been moving in the right direction. Little difficult. Most of our campuses here come from City of Lompoc municipality. We have a few with PG&E and then a couple more through the federal government. DFAS is the organization. They actually buy the energy from PG&E and then sell it to us. So we see that moving in the right direction. And so you see on our project list our 5 biggest cost centers, which are, no surprise, that's the 2 high schools, the 2 middle schools, and the education center, solar projects. And so these also are projects that pay for themselves, right? We start reducing our dependency on the grid. Eventually that stuff pays for itself. And then, as we move into the future, it's just a huge savings for LUSD.
Okay, thank you. Here's another duplication, so we'll start with the question to Allen Hancock, and then we'll come over to the Lompoc Unified. For Allen Hancock, is there an oversight committee for the funds expenditure?
Yes.
And maybe give some information about that.
And I kind of skipped over that as our friends in Lompoc were talking. We do have on our website, you can see our Citizens Oversight Commission for the Measure I bonds, and again, those are the audits have been excellent on those. We have an external audit done every year on those resources. So if you go to Hancock College, you can see on the website you can see those reports. And we will for the next measure. We will also have a Citizens Oversight Commission that it meets at least twice a year and does an annual report each year that the Board of Trustees accepts.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then for Lompoc Unified, also, how will the Oversight Committee be selected? What experience are you looking for people to be on this committee?
So there's an application right now on our website, and so we can't choose those people until Measure E passes, and I believe that is about a week after it passes is when we will choose those. Go online, take a look at the application. There's a lot of questions. Of course, the Oversight Committee is made up of community members, parent-teacher organization members, parents, business owners. What you do not see anywhere, and there cannot be anywhere on that Oversight Committee, is an LUSD employee or administrator or anyone with a financial tie to LUSD. So that's the law. We had an Oversight Committee with Measure N that ended up being a total of 17 members who served different lengths of time for Measure E. The terms are 2-year terms, and I believe you can do up to 3. And so we encourage the community to go online, take a look at the application, look at the bylaws, and get involved with this stuff, because this whole process has been very transparent. We started it by going out to the community, asking them if they would support a bond, and then asking what types of projects were most important to you. And so naturally, it's important to us to have the community come and watch over the fiscal side of that to make sure that all these funds get spent exactly the way that we said we would spend them, and nothing gets spent on salaries, administrative, teachers, everything that is listed on those project boards. Those are the projects that we're going to do.
I just want to add to that. In my current position, I'm responsible for the district budget in Guadalupe. For the Oversight Committee, which I inherited, so I did not know any of the members. They were selected before I came to the district. I prepare detailed reports for them to read in simple spreadsheets so they can see the expenditures, and all of the backup information is provided to them so they can look at actual invoices, contracts, anything related to the bond expenditures. And it's an ongoing process. They meet at least twice a year, and it's all transparent. Everything is there. If they have any questions of where the expenditures are going, what the contractors are doing, it's all there, and the business office prepares that for them. It's important to me that they have it simple and easy to read, because our budget reports are very extensive and can be very, very complicated. And so that's a goal of mine, is to make it readable and understandable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now back to Alan Hancock. Does the $11 on every 100,000, I guess that's assessed value, does this increase over the life of the bond?
No, that's actually the maximum, so that's the most it would ever be. So that actually, that $11 assumes that we issued all $75 million of the first day, and we won't be doing that. So we would start off, the first project will be the Fine Arts Complex building, and we would do a bond issuance for that project. And when we've done these over the years, you issue the amount you can spend at the time, and then there'll be different lengths of maturity. So mostly they're 30-year bonds, but within that there'll actually be the Wall Street sets them up for investors so that they'll buy some shorter-term bonds as well. So there's some fluctuation in there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now for Lompoc Unified. Okay, it says 21 million of the measure in bonds will mature in 2022, but another 38 million won't mature until 2032. Why are we deferring payments and paying interest for 14 years?
So I believe the question is in regard to the measure N bond funds, perhaps?
Yes, measure N bonds,
Right.
yes.
And so measure N starts to drop off in 22. And so the reason we have deferred the payments of measure E out 4 years was because that is what the community told us to do. We started this process about 3-4 years ago. After all the work from measure N was done, we assessed the facilities. We saw there was still a substantial amount of work that needed to be done. And so we surveyed the community. Would you support another bond for facilities in Lompoc Unified School District? We gained a lot of great data from that. We heard that well over half of the community would support it. We also heard that we have been budgeting this amount for years. Do not increase our taxes. Don't increase the taxes, just extend it out into the future, and we will support this. And so that is what we've done. That's the reason why payments would not start until 22. And so again, measure E starts to drop off in 22, measure N drops off in 22, E picks up right there. The interest on the bond starts to accrue the moment that we would sell a bond. So if we sell a bond in 19, which that is our intention, as you see on that project list, we want to get to work immediately. We believe that the kids deserve this. We know that the cost of labor and materials is rising greatly every single year. So the longer that we wait to do this, the higher those numbers climb. And so the reason for the deferral, again, is because that's what the community asked us to do.
Okay, this is the last question we have for Alan Hancock. Okay, can we hold off on the bond Measure Y for another 2 years?
No, because we need the funds for the fine arts building. In order to leverage the state funds, we need to have the bond funds there. There is an opportunity that if we really had to, we could take some internal funds and kind of carry that, but the most prudent way to do it, similar to what we're talking about here, is the leveraging of state funds and the managing the escalation costs. We're really concerned about what the price of steel is going to do in the next couple of years, so we want to get to that as quickly as possible.
Okay. Okay, Lompoc. What is your plan to counter criticism in the community about Measure E? This is the third time it is up.
I think I addressed that a little bit. To put it in perspective, if you want to say the third time it was up, the first time it was up, it had 59%. But due to the action of 2 school board members in the last school board, they made it go up to 67% because 2 of them went against it. So, you can offer free ice cream, you're not going to pass it at 67%. So we got up to 59%, which was pretty darn good. And so since that time, obviously I think we learned a lot from this last one. First of all, get more people out to vote, but answer the questions. If everybody has this criticism, then let's just answer every question they throw at us, and hopefully that's enough. I mean, last night, I got a time limit, I know. Last night I went down to Santa Barbara County Bowl to stay married after 32 years and take my wife out, and we saw Boy George, and we saw the B-52s. It was great, rock lobster and all that. But we had to walk, quite a distance, and we're walking by Santa Barbara High School, and, there's buildings getting rebuilt, this old building, big old sign, your tax dollars at work, this is the measure that passed. I'm going, dang, I wish that was us, and so, that's, I wrote a letter to the editor, it was 1,200 words, and John really worked with me, and he put it down to 600 words and let me keep that criticism against him, and then he apologized to me in his editorial, so I thought that was pretty good. And we've been getting some people to write more letters and things of that nature. The 2 principals from 2 high schools did. I don't know what we can do. I really appreciate AAUW, doing this, because when we go to a school board meeting, we've got to sit there and listen to people. They don't always gripe, and they'll say things, and we can't say anything. And I've asked us, come on, how come? Well, let's just talk about this. We'd love to answer your questions, like tonight. Nope, can't, got to sit there. Then they leave when their thing's done. So at the end of the meeting, then we have our report, and it's like they're gone. They're in bed, and we're still there going, okay, well, here's the answer to whatever. So that's one of the issues we have. But this kind of thing really helps us, speaking to the service clubs and just trying to get out there, That'd be my answer. I don't know what else you
Just
want.
add on real quickly. The first bond we had was a 59.3%, second highest passer rate in the county, just behind Santa Barbara. So we won. The fact is we had 5 board members, and the law says you have to have a supermajority to go 55 plus 1. We had 3 voting yes, 2 voting no, so that takes us up to the 67% threshold. So that became an issue among adults on the board that potentially cost us $80 million, cost the kids $80 million. The next one we go out was the June election. We didn't anticipate it was like the lowest voter turnout in 12 or 16 years. So but we still learn from it. I think we're being as transparent as we possibly can, showing exactly where the money's going and continuing to focus on kids. And not so, we're focused on adults, but we're really focused on kids. And I think what we learned from a lot of feedback from community was saying we want specifics. So now you can see we're given exact specifics of where this money's going.
Okay, this is another finance question. It's probably repetitious of what you discussed earlier. This is for Lompoc. How does the interest rate work over time? Does it go up due to interest on the old bond?
You want me to help? Let me help with. I used to do bond finance when in another life, and so the interest rates are generally fixed rates. So So within a bond, there'll be several different series within that bond. So you may get some short-term interest rates that would be a little bit higher, and then some long-term interest rates that are lower, because the way these bonds are sold, I mean, it's essentially insurance company and retirement plans who come in and buy them. So they're buying them in big bulk. And so for us, the single biggest holder of our bonds is State Farm Insurance. And so when they go out to sell them, you know, the State Farm buyer might come in and say, you know, we've got this little short-term gap we need to fill. And so they'll buy some of the issuances that are maybe only 6 or 8 years out. And then, you know, somebody else might come in and say, you know, we need this long-term investment for our retirement plan, and they'll buy 30 years. So within it, there's different interest rates, but those coupons stay the same. They're not a variable rate deal. So once you pay for them, they're done. And that's what gives you the opportunity in future years. So what we were able to do over the last 5 years for us, and I'm sure Lompoc has done some similar things, where we can go back to the markets, and we have a financial advisor who calls us up and says, hey, there's some institutional investors out there. They would like to, they'll give you a better interest rate, and you can save some money on those. So that's how we manage those.
Okay, thank you. My eyes were glazing over, but it got a little
Everybody
bit of
else
that.
was too, but I enjoyed that conversation. I have to tell you, I gave that conversation at at our academic senate. All of our faculty are sitting in there, and they've all got the same look all of you had, except for the guy from the business department. He was just like, he was on it. So Bob Bryant.
All right, here's something very specific for Lompoc Unified. During what phase will the Hancock Stadium needs be addressed?
So there's a current joint project with Hancock Stadium right now, community funded, as well as some funds that the school board and superintendent set aside. And so that is what is paying for the stadium upgrade at Hancock Stadium. It is not on the Measure E list because the bond would not pay for that upgrade.
And I just want to add that this is Lompoc. This committee from the Lompoc Health Foundation, you know, with Ashley Costa, former graduate of Lompoc High and a former city council person, and Tom Blanco, and all these people, they've got it. I mean, they've got it in pledges, they've raised all this money, over about $1.5 million just from our community. And that's why we're trying to work real hard with them. Now, when the State Department of Architects come in there and say, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, your handicap ramp's got to be this high, not that high, it gets ridiculous. But the money is not going to be, from what I understand, we're not going to be putting a whole bunch of, using the bond money for that. That's a private venture, but we owe it as a school district to the people in our community that are raising all that money to put an all-weather track in and put an all-weather football field in there with that money. We owe it to them to work and find money that is appropriate to be spent in that area, and that's what we're going to do.
And just to add on to that, I think it was 2 years ago, the foundation or the committee approached us and said, would the district be willing to match these funds if we were able to raise $1.25 million? So the board at the time allocated $1.25 to say, we'll match it if it's raised, and fast forward 2.5 years and it's raised. So the track and the field will be paid for through that previous 3 years ago commitment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lompoc again. Where will the money come for demolition? How will that be done safely without harming climate or students?
So the bulk of the demolition project, you're speaking of Maple High School, or the old Maple High School on base, which is now a storage facility. It would look a lot like the demolition of of West Wings about 6 years ago. Demolition is all about the abatement of the lead and the asbestos. And so it would look a lot like any abatement job that we have done in the district, except on a larger scale, right? Tubes going in and people dressed in their PPE. They get rid of the asbestos tile and the mastic below it, the asbestos mastic up above. They clear out the windows where the lead paint's at, and then the actual demolition takes about 2 days after that. It's gone. And so that facility is a very expensive storage facility for LUSD.
Okay, Lompoc Unified, why can schools use a sales tax?
Well, I think we've answered that a couple times tonight, but we can repeat it again. So the governing body of the school district, which is our board of trustees, the school board, do not have the authority to put a sales tax on your ballot. They do, however, have the ability to place a general obligation bond on the ballot. And so that's what they've done.
Okay. Are there any state matching funds available? Lompoc, yes.
Absolutely. And so I mentioned this earlier. Every other school district in this county has a bond. Some of them have two that they're working on. They're upgrading their facilities for their kids. It's very, very, I've known Gloria a long time, and I respect Gloria, although she went to a different high school than I went to. It's very difficult for those of us born and raised and schooled in this community to know that the Guadalupe schools are now nicer than the Lompoc schools, right? So every other district in the county, they have bonds, which means that they can now reach out for state matching funds. How much? We don't know until you go through the process. We will aggressively pursue those. And so what would that do for us? Say $40 million, which is what we received during Measure N. Well, those project lists you see there get greatly expanded. And so that will be our goal. We will go after those aggressively. Everyone else is taxing on them right now, so we don't know how much money will be left by the time Lompoc passes a bond. But we absolutely will do that for the kids.
Okay, and this would be the final question. It's kind of a good segue into our closing statements also. It's this for Lompoc. What can we do as a community to get others to understand and receive accurate information?
Well, I think these forums, like what we're doing tonight, go a great distance. Our goal has been just getting the facts out there. We have been at several different community events. We were at Ryan Park last weekend. We were at the YMCA this past weekend. We have been doing bus tours of the school sites to allow people to get out and see what the classrooms look like. I have friends that have told me, you know what, they were okay. Those rooms were okay in the 70s. Come look at them. They look a little different, right? It looks a little different with the water pouring into the classrooms for years. And so that's what we've done. That has helped. We try to stay away from the rhetorical, persuasive stuff that you read on the social network. Of course, that's there. But our goal has been just get the facts out. Let the community see the facts of this so that they can make a logical decision on November 6th. And so events just like these, we'll be doing many more. We're at the Rotary Club. We're doing more tours. We're going out to the school sites. Again, not giving the rhetorical, persuasive side. Here's the facts. Here's what we will do. Here's what was done during Measure N. This is the amount of the bond. This is how it will get paid off. And then once they have that information, then it's up to them. The question that we have posed to people on the bus rides on Saturdays that I have posed is, okay, we're going to pull up to Cabrillo High School or Lompoc High or LVMS or Hapgood, and there will be more. And this is what I want you to think as you go through these classrooms. Look around and just ask yourself, is this appropriate for our students today? Are they appropriate for our students today? Not once has someone said, you know what, this is nice. And so that's how we get the message out. We're doing it every way we can. Somebody earlier mentioned we've been through this before. We've tried to learn from the nose, if you will. You guys were, you didn't tell us how you were going to spend the money. Well, we did. We directed you to a 500-page master plan or a 50-page needs assessment plan. People didn't like looking at that. So we put out a project list, and we've directed them to the website. And we put project lists out at every school site. Some school sites, 2 or 3 project lists. This is where we're going to spend the money. People have the rhetorical stuff about Measure N. The money was mismanaged. Well, here's the letter. Read it back there. This is where the money was spent. It was spent appropriately. If you look at that and you start adding up those millions of dollars, you'll see that it was infrastructure and ADA. Is there more of that? There is more of that, but compare it to the project list now. And you'll see that, the work that we plan to do with this bond, this is the stuff that will affect our students. They will see this right from the get-go. You see those first strike projects, those are the ones that don't require DSA approval. They don't take a whole bunch of time to plan. We want to show the community we're good stewards of your money. Look at the change right off the bat. And some of those projects will start as soon as February of 2019 if this thing passes.
And this was in the paper, a full-page ad yesterday, Sunday's paper. Okay, if you don't read the Lompoc Record, what do? Well, I don't do that. You people, sometimes you have to go out and find it. And, we're doing everything we can. We're exhausting every source we can. I don't know what else we can do, but we can just keep trying. And that's what we're going to do right up to the voting date.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time now, we'll have the 5-minute closing statement, and let's start with Alan Hancock, and then we'll have Lompoc, and then we'll have applause and gathering after that.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
I'll share briefly as well. We're doing some similar things of getting out, but getting on the social media pages and liking the pages and following what's going on and sharing that with your friends is really important. And we feel like we're doing the work, and we're all we're burning a lot of vacation time. I'm sure that's we keep turning in vacation slips to my staff because we don't want to do this on taxpayer funds. And this is my 6th year at Hancock College, and I came in right at the tail end of the recession, and it didn't take long to figure out what a very special place this is, and how fortunate we were to live in this community. And we really hadn't anticipated needing the bond until the state came in and said, we'll give you $24 million to build that building that you've had on the list for 20 years. And so we kind of scrambled the jets to make sure we could make that happen, because it's good for our community, it's good for our students. We're changing the odds here at Hancock College, and so many of our families, probably most of the families in this room, you talk to your kids about where they're going to college. Some of our families talk to their kids about if they're going to college. There's too many families in our community that aren't even having that conversation. Because they don't know they can go to college. They don't know they can do this. So that's why we're reaching out to kids in the 5th and 6th grade and bringing them on campus. So we need to bring them onto a campus that, is something that looks like a place they would want to go. And we've transformed the campus over the last 10 years. And there's just a little bit of work that needs to be done to fix that. And Measure Y does that. This college has been really good stewards of taxpayer money. We've been good stewards of the taxpayers' money. We have more than sufficient bond reserves, more than the state requires. We are managing our budget. We're managing our enrollments, and I think we're doing really good things for this community. And the state's not going to help us. Mayor Alice Patino and I were at a meeting today, and she said, I'm tired of Sacramento, but I'm going to support the stuff that goes on in my community. And so when we start to get everybody from every political stripe stepping up and saying we're going to support Hancock College, that's really important to us, and we think it's a good reflection of what we're doing. We're enthusiastic. We have great faculty who are dedicated to changing the odds for our community, and we know that in the next, over the next 10 years, all of the good things that happen in northern Santa Barbara County are going to come right across our campus. That's our responsibility, is to make sure that when the students come from Lompoc, that we help them on their way to their career or to a 4-year university. We're going to be in 10 years looking back and say this is a really great time to be part of this community, and the things that happened in our educational system were there. Because I can tell you, I've heard this from a lot of people. The school districts in this area have never worked together better. From the college to the Lompoc and Santa Maria and Guadalupe and Cuyama and Santa Ynez, all of us are working together because there's no my problem, your problem. This is all our issues that we need to support. And if you really want to show students they're valued, the way you show students that they're valued is when they walk onto campus, they feel like they're in a place that's welcoming and inviting and well-equipped. And so we hope that you'll support Measure Y. I hope you'll support Measure E. I think you're going to get a good return on this from your folks. So.
All right, I'll start it real quickly. Thank you, Kevin. A lot of the same echoes from us. We currently are significantly above the state average on the law, what the law says you have to have in your reserve. So we're above that. It's again my 6th year also. A very strong fiscal accountability to the citizens of Lompoc. We've been great stewards of the money. We have, again, it's on our website, we're well above the state average. State says you have to hold 3%. We hold anywhere right now from 9 to 12%. And we also have a board policy that says we're going to hold an additional 2%. So that's 5% minimum, but we're at about 9 to 12%. So we've done a great job with our money. Since I've been here, we've worked closely with our bargaining units to give about a 25% total increase in compensation, which we're proud of, and we believe that our workers deserve that, and we want to continue our great efforts with them, but we also want to continue our great efforts with the kids. And this bond, we are really trying to focus on this is for kids. This doesn't go to anybody's salary. This goes directly into classrooms and makes the learning environments better for kids. So I think we have a strong board that's going to continue to push for kids and a lot of positive things happening.
So I'll just piggyback on that just for a minute. We won't take up too much more of your time. So this thing is about kids, right? This is not Doug's bond. It's not Trevor's bond, Gloria's, or Dick's. This is for the kids. When you go through our schools and you look at the classrooms, they deserve better. They deserve all of the same opportunities that the kids in Guadalupe have, in Santa Maria, in Santa Barbara, over in San Ynez, in Buellton. Our kids here in Lompoc deserve the same, right? And so I have a vested interest. I told you that I'm born and raised here, right? I was schooled here. My family moved here in 1955. And so when discussions of bond came back up about 3 or 4 years ago, I started discussing this with my mother, right? And so she told me the story. She said, you know what, when we came here, all there were a bunch of one-room schoolhouses. And the community was asked to support building 17 school sites, right? And so this was a big thing for myself and your father. And so what it came down to was the kids deserve better. They didn't deserve what they had then, right? And so in 2002, Measure N, their decision was, you know what? The schools are like 40, 45 years old. They're going downhill. The kids deserve better. And so here we are again, and I've had to have that conversation with my mother again, who has no more children in school, although she has grandchildren, and will have more grandchildren going through our school. Would you support this again? And so her answer to me was, what has changed since 1955 when we moved here? The kids. This is all about the kids. They're our future. They deserve way better. She added some colorful language to that. I'm appalled by some of those pictures that you've seen here tonight, and you've probably seen them in the newspaper and on Facebook. And her answer to me was, I can't imagine how anyone couldn't, right? So this thing is about kids. Look at the pictures, come out and look at the school sites, and then just ask yourself, is this appropriate for our kids today? And I'm pretty confident that your answer will be, you know what? Our kids here in Lompoc deserve all the same opportunities as the ones in Guadalupe. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Before we are dismissed, well, I would like to remind everyone that we do have one more in our series of forums. It will be here in the chambers on October 3rd, and that will be for all the candidates for school board. I also want to let you know that these forums are being shown on TAP TV repeatedly. I don't know, I don't have an exact schedule, but I believe Stacy was telling us that the city website is now adding a link, so you can see it anytime. So if you go to the City of Lompoc website, there will be a link to all these forums, and then you can watch it at your pleasure. Before we dismiss, I have to tell a funny story. It has to do with, I retired from Lompoc Unified 15 years ago, and I didn't have a chance to see the transformation I felt of the campuses. I was at Lompoc High, and that was during, I guess it was Measure N, when some of the improvements came, and everything was beautifully painted. But it was my last year of teaching, and I always thought my facility was in good shape. And one day, I don't know, maybe we're doing Of Mice and Men, I'll say as a joke. So one of the students looks up on the wall next to my bookshelves and said, "Miss Brooks, why is there a mouse on the wall?" A mouse? I had been teaching there 25 years. I had never seen a mouse in my classroom. Well, the mouse kept coming back, and we couldn't figure out, what's with this mouse? Well, Mr. Barrett will appreciate, we had an AV closet in the English office. So we were cleaning out one day, and I looked down on the ground, and there's all this gold paper. And we're saying, what is this? It looked like confetti. Well, back in those days, and I'm sure it still happens, you know how kids have to sell candy bars? Maybe they don't allow it anymore. Well, our mouse had been feeding on a box of candy bars. This mouse was the fattest and the most satisfied mouse I think these kids had ever come across, because that mouse had gone through a whole box of candy bars that didn't get sold to the children, but that I left Lompoc Unified with a great upward spirit on that one, because I did like my mouse that year. So with that story, I would say our evening is complete. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the City of Lompoc for allowing us to have the forums in this chambers. It allows us to have TAP TV, and everybody, good luck and good night.